Hi and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Alternanthera, that was hard to say, Party Time, which is this plant here. I've got a few going on. So I'm going to talk about my experiences with this plant. I've not had it for very long, but I've had it long enough to have propagated it a few times and had an experiment with different conditions. So if you have this plant and you've not had the same experience, it might just be, you know, you've tried something different and it worked for you. I'm just talking about what works for me with this plant. So as you can see, it's you know, it's quite a fleshy plant. When I talk about this plant, I relate it very much to the softwood on a fuchsia, because that's just kind of how it reminds me on the way it grows. So for every leaf node, there's usual branching potential. I find that if you pinch this plant out, which you can sort of see on this one here, so I actually made it as a cutting, so I took the top off here, and so two branches have formed, so that can sort of help create a bushier plant. So yeah, these plants are becoming really popular in the UK at the moment. It might not be when you're watching this video, but right now they are quite popular. People are selling and buying cuttings on Facebook and eBay, so if you're looking for one, you know, that's where you might find them. So yeah, so you'd be lucky if you found a full plant of this, especially in the UK at the moment, because people are looking everywhere for them. So to grow them, growing them, I tried a few different things. So I put some in soil and I've put some in leca, leca being these small balls of clay, and they both seem to do fine. They're quite easy to care for. I've had some under natural light, I've had some under grow lights, and they both seem to be growing very similar, to be honest. They just like a lot of light. I've found that humidity levels, these are all been under about 60–70%. Some of them a bit more, some of them a bit less, and they all are growing fine. The only main thing with these plants is they love water. So that really works well for leca, because if you don't know about leca, you have it in this medium and they sit in a reservoir of water, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, so I don't know if you can see, but we've got roots coming out of the bottom that literally sit in water the whole time, which works really well for these because they love water. Soil, you have to keep a bit more of an eye on it, because obviously soil can dry out quite quickly, especially as temperatures start to rise. So yeah, I actually forgot to water mine. I can't remember, a couple of weeks ago I went into where this one was kept, and it looked dead, and I was just like, oh no, what's happened? Realised it was really dry, so sat in some water, and yeah, it just perked up after a couple of hours. So just remember to keep a bit of an eye on them. Obviously if they look a bit worse for wear, try giving them a bit of water. That's a basic on growing them. Lots of light, lots of water. Humidity, not much of a problem. I'm going to say they probably want it quite warm. These have been in the house. Apparently you can grow them outside in summer, but I'll be keeping mine as houseplants because they're gorgeous. So yeah, so that's a brief on growing this plant. Now, to make this a bushy plant, as you can see on this one, on this stem here, I have actually chopped the top off here, so it was going to grow up from here. I chopped it because it has side shoots, So these side shoots have now grown, and obviously we've now got these two over here. Now, if I was to carry on, which I am going to, I'm going to cut this plant up again. You can use whatever you cut off as a cutting. I would keep on just cutting maybe after 2 leaves, so 2 sets of leaves. So this is 1 set, this is 2 sets, and then I would chop this top bit off here, and then it'll send 2 shoots from there. Now, what you do with the cutting, you can either sell it, you can grow it, or as I've done with this little one over here, is I've just put it back in the same pot. So eventually when this starts growing, it'll fill the pot out and it will then become a really nice big bushy plant. So, and you can see here there's 2 stems because I've chopped this top bit off. So it's sent 2 up here, and I will keep on chopping it off and probably putting it back in the pot for this one. There's not a lot of variegation on this one yet. I do find that the first few sets of leaves that you get, they don't seem to have very much variegation. I could be wrong, I'm just going off my own personal experience. But for example, these leaves, like the ones down here, are quite green, but then as you start going higher up, you can sort of see we're getting a lot more pink coming through. So one of my problems is I can't stop propagating this plant. As you can see, I've got 3 plants here. I gave one away actually last night, and I've got 2 cuttings down here. If you've ever grown fuchsias and you know like when to pinch them out, that's kind of what I'm doing with these. Propagation. So I'll tell you my experience of propagating this plant. I bought a cutting on, I think it was off Facebook. The cutting came to me, and I think it was probably, you know, maybe 2 nodes. I can't quite remember, but the top of the cutting, and I'm talking about like the tiniest little bit, had snapped off, and I was just like, oh, you know, what am I going to do with that? I was so upset because the cutting just didn't look like very much, and I was a bit worried because there was no real nodes that I could use, and as far as I was aware, I needed a node for this plant, which was completely untrue. I didn't at all, which I'll show you on the ones that I've got here. The roots don't come from the node, so don't panic if you've just got a stem. You do need the nodes for growing the leaves, but the roots, it's fine. So anyway, so I actually got one of these small jars, which I've got here. I think I got them from like the works or somewhere. They're just craft jars. They would have a cork in the top, and I put the tiny little baby cutting in that, and from that I grew 2 plants. So the original cutting that had the top snapped off, and the top tiny little bit. This was the big part of the cutting, and this was the top. Yeah, they are different sizes, but they both came at the same time, and I've been growing them just the same, except I have taken more cuttings off this one as opposed to this one. When you are growing this plant, you might be growing it to take cuttings, or you might be growing it to make a nice big bushy plant. Either way, it's going to work for you. So when you get to a point of maybe having 2 sets of leaf nodes, then you might want to take the top out of that so that the plant bushes out and you end up with some cuttings. So basically, if I was going to take a cutting off one of these, I would I'll probably do it off one of these ones. And which one shall we do? Shall we do this one? So this one is the one that I'm going to take the cutting off. So as you can see down here, this is where the leaves are, and this is the bit that I'm going to chop off. Now it doesn't seem like a lot, but I'll show you one that I did the other day. So all I'm going to do is chop it here. Can you see this? So here is where I've chopped it. Okay, and actually I can show you what I mean by the growth. There's one. You've seen my cutting, and look at the variegation. I mean, you saw before, but that variegation is stunning. So it might seem like there's not very much to it, but here's one I did earlier. Here you can see a cutting that I did a few days ago, very similar to what I've just done. Can you see some really small roots? So this was taken a few days ago, and this just sits in one of these like that. I do have a bigger one that I took quite a few, like maybe a week or so ago, and that now taking the cuttings, I find that a small vessel with just some water in is all you need. You don't need anything fancy. So with this cutting, I tried to be all fancy, and I put it in my heated propagator. I had it in a much bigger jar type thing, and it just didn't root. It wasn't willing to root at all. So I stuck it in my handy little jar and moved it away from the heated propagator, and within a day or two it started showing roots. So I'll show you this one close up. As you can see, the roots on this is just crazy, and they literally come just from the stem, and the colour is pretty amazing. Look at that leaf. But you can also see the side shoots here, if I put it on my hand maybe. So if it was bigger, I could always take the top off that and those side shoots would grow out. Just as another quick note on cuttings, I don't let them callus over. I'm going to be putting that in water pretty much straight away, and I probably will sell this cutting in maybe a week or two. Maybe just let it come to a little bit more. This one's ready really to go. There's no reason why I need to keep it, except I just love keeping them all. So yeah, so that is like the basics of taking cuttings of Alternanthera Party Time. Once again, if it's not going pink, I wouldn't worry too much. It does seem to be like, as it gets more mature, it starts to throw out more pink. I do think the light has a lot to do with it as well. So yeah, if you've got any questions, put them in the comments below, and I hope this helps you with your new cutting or new plant, because it's really hard to find much information on this. So like I said at the beginning, this is just my personal experience with this plant, and it seems to be going all right. I mean, yeah, there's some older looking leaves which might fall off, but I'm not worried about that. It seems to, you know, branch out quite a lot, and it sends off new shoots from where the old leaves were. So yeah, yeah, I'll put my Instagram in the description, so you can always go off to my Instagram and follow me there, which I will try and put when I've got cuttings for sale. And if you're interested, you can send me a message on there. So yeah, till the next video, thank you again for joining me. I really appreciate anybody that's watching these. Just trying to give my tips and tricks for plants. So thank you. Bye.